In this video, I will be going over the Magog text and also touching on the last king of the north of Daniel 11. By the end of this video, I hope you will have a better idea of what's going on in the Middle East right now. So let's begin with Ezekiel. Ezekiel 38:2. Son of man, set thy face against Gog, the land of Magog, the chief prince of Meshech and Tubal, and prophesy against him. Now these are very ancient names that God's using in this prophecy to speak of something that's actually going to take place at the end of this age. And the names can be found in the Table of Nations after God confounded the language, the Tower of Babel. I've heard theories about Magog being carried off into Europe, and some say Russia, but I don't think God is speaking of where in the world these ancient tribes migrated to over the next 1,000 or so years. But I think that it is like a freeze frame. Where was Magog located at the time that he ruled, or their leader, Gog, ruled over Meshech and Tubal? These tribes didn't speak the same languages anymore, so to rule over them would most likely involve conquering them first. Gog appears to be the first conqueror of other lands mentioned after the time of the flood. After the flood, Satan would begin deceiving man again. We have to remember that it's an ongoing battle of Satan against God. And Satan's goal is to stop all men from worshiping God. And he does this by raising up kingdoms and empires. In Revelation, after the 1,000 years of peace is over, Satan is let out of the pit and goes out to deceive men once again. So we see the same names of Gog and Magog in that scripture. This is Satan back to his old tricks to raise up an empire to take over the world of the New Age and try to kill off all that worship God on earth. So let's see if the scriptures will help show us where Magog was actually located. Ezekiel 38:5. Persia, Cush, and Put with them, and all them with shield and helmet. In 38:6, Gomer and all his bands, the house of Togarmah of the north quarters, and all his bands, and many people with thee. So Gomer and the house of Togarmah of the north quarters, at the time that Gog was chief prince over his two brothers' lands of Meshech and Tubal, they were believed by the experts to be located in the land of nowadays Turkey. Togarmah is the north country from Magog, so now we know that Magog was located south of Turkey. Cush would be the Sudan. Put is now Libya, and these nations are located in Upper Africa. History tells us that the people of Magog were never known to be any further south than Syria. So I made this map. This is as high-tech as it gets on these videos. We can look at this map and see which countries were north of Magog and which ones were south. This is Turkey, Togarmah, and this tan part here would have been places such as Babylon and the empire of the Seleucids. It's actually Iraq and Syria. And we have Jordan and Saudi Arabia and Egypt, Libya, which would be Put, and Cush, the Sudan, or Ethiopia. This is Persia, Iran. We're left with this unidentified area in here that isn't mentioned in this text at all. And I believe that this is actually being identified by the name of Magog, Meshech, and Tubal, which is the freeze frame, and it's located south of Turkey, and it is north of Egypt and Put and Cush. Okay, so at a later time, Magog and Meshech and Tubal all migrated north. Magog to an area in Turkey, and Meshech and Tubal up here on the other side of the mountains, and the Caucasus mountain range was in between them. So we know that this wouldn't be what God was referring to, since Magog over here wouldn't be a ruler over Meshech and Tubal on the other side of these mountains. Okay, so if you didn't get a good look at that. Okay, so we're interested in the time frame when Magog, Meshech, and Tubal's lands were all adjacent to one another, and Gog ruled over them. And that would be when they were still down in that tan-colored area of Iraq and Syria before they migrated north. Now let's look at the last king of the north prophecy of Daniel 11 and see what names are mentioned there, since I believe that Gog and the last king of the north and the eighth head leader in the prophecy and Revelation were all three the same. Daniel 11:40, and at that time of the end shall the king of the south, that would be Egypt, will push at him, the king of the north, and the king of the north shall come against him like a whirlwind, with chariots and with horsemen and with many ships, and they shall enter into countries and shall overflow and pass over. In the first part of Daniel 11 timeline prophecy, the kings of the south were the Ptolemy Empire of Egypt, and the kings of the north were the Seleucid Empire of Old Babylon Kingdom area, which was once located, of course, in Iraq and Syria. This would mean that in the last days, the king of the south, Egypt, will go against the last days king of the north empire located in the Iraq-Syria area, same land that Magog was located on that map. So 1141, he shall enter also into the glorious land, Israel, and many countries shall be overthrown, but these shall escape out of his hand, even Edom and Moab and the chief of the children of Ammon, which nowadays make up the land of Jordan today. He shall stretch forth his hand also upon the countries, and the land of Egypt shall not escape. But he shall have power over the treasures of gold and silver, and over all the precious things of Egypt, and the Libyans, this is Put again, and the Ethiopians, which would be Cush, shall be at his steps. So these are, of course, the same Put and Cush spoken of in the Gog prophecy. In ancient times, Ethiopia was located immediately south to ancient Egypt, which would now be the Sudan. I believe that the leader of the last empire of this age is being called Gog in one prophecy, and then the king of the north in another. But they're the same guy, same empire, same war, and with Israel in the middle of it. The countries mentioned are now all Muslim countries, And for an Islamic empire to rise up in the last days, it will require that all these Muslim countries be under one rule, one leader. In Islam, this would be called a caliph, and the empire would be a caliphate. A caliphate that would enforce Sharia law for all Muslims around the world. When Islam first came on the scene in the 7th century, they set up their first caliphate in Syria. They then built Baghdad, and the caliphate was established there for a short time. So it appears that this old empire is going to come back to life in the end days. With the caliphate, the Muslim countries will be subject to the caliph and his rule over them. These countries would once again become provinces of the empire, as they were before World War I in the Ottoman Empire. Out of 6 billion people on this planet, 1 billion are Muslim. Most are hardworking, peace-loving Muslims, but a percentage of the Muslim population are extremists. Groups like Hamas, Hezbollah, Al-Qaeda, etc., etc. They are not in just one country, but they live and move around all the countries of the Middle East and Northern Africa. Many of these radical groups, they're in or have been sent to every Muslim country in the world. And my guess is that they are making way for their future plans they have for the Middle East. A caliphate to rule over all Muslims around the world. One goal of a caliphate will be to bring all people into submission under Allah. So they claim that Allah and God are the same God. The Arabic word Allah means God. It comes from the word Alat, a sky goddess of the early Arabs, pre-Muhammad. But let me ask you this. There's 2 books, the Bible and the Quran, and they are in complete contradiction to each other. So were both of these books inspired by the same God? I don't believe they are. Either you worship the God that inspired the Bible or believe in the one that inspired the Quran. Thank you for listening, and God bless.